Definitely bright. I don't see no hoops out here.
Yeah, man.
Wow. I think this is my first time on a baseball field now.
They play on turf.
It's turf? They play on turf?
I didn't know they played on turf.
This is tough though.
This is tough. I ain't gonna lie.
So how'd they have the court set up? On the right-hand side?
So they would play in here?
Yo, this is actually wild. Damn. This is the ticket?
Ticket for opening night.
Sheesh. Skydome.
Skydome.
I'm not gonna lie, I did not know it was called Skydome.
I didn't know it was called Skydome. It's called the Skydome.
I wasn't born yet. Opening night. That's crazy. Look at all the fans, man. That's like, you know, it kind of just shows just the excitement of the Raptors, like from day one.
I had been working for the Denver Nuggets, and strangely enough, we were having some financial troubles. One of the things one of our owners wanted to consider was relocating to Toronto.
San Antonio was even more real because Red McCombs had the club for sale. It was pre-David Robinson and Tim Duncan.
I know this guy in Toronto, he's interested in an NBA team. Well, it turned out to be Larry Tannenbaum. But the Commissioner Stern put a stopper on Larry acquiring and moving the Denver Nuggets.
David Stern was very adverse to teams switching cities. We just had to concentrate on going after expansion then. It was a pretty competitive group. Labatt's had lined up with Larry. What is now Live Nation, we're teamed up with Magic Johnson. And then who's this like 30-year-old kid that thinks he can do it?
John Bitove Jr. celebrated his 33rd birthday in style. Hours earlier, he found out that it was his group that had been given the go-ahead by the NBA to negotiate for an expansion team for the city of Toronto.
We were able to build a trust with the league. It wasn't just about having a good team. If we're not strong in the community and if we don't grow the sport as a sport, it doesn't matter what we do on the court, we're not going to succeed. And I think that was a very important piece. We were the only Canadian team that had a foundation to raise money to invest in sport when we started. None of that stuff existed back then. And everyone thought we were crazy. But it was all part of the idea of how do you create a broader reach for the fan base as opposed to just your diehard white male fan.
I had actually received a call from John Bitove about Isaiah, so I obviously gave Isaiah a great review because I had played with him at University at Indiana and thought the world of him. I knew he was a great leader.
Isaiah was committed to growing basketball in Canada. It wasn't just a job. We almost saw it as a mission, which was, let's just make Toronto a great basketball city. So he had that conviction.
I called up Isaiah and said, hey, if you're getting a job in Toronto, why don't you include me? It's been a great run since then.
I wanted T-Rex. I thought dinosaur would be cool because no pro team has a dinosaur. And then my son Brett, before we put the 10 names in for the vote, he said, if you like T-Rex, why don't you like Raptors?
They lived over 85 million years ago, but they're coming back to play a little hoop.
It was a lot of work, but a lot of fun. Working alongside some young, energetic, smart people, everyone doing their part. And I think John Bitove was the right owner at the right time. Really got our franchise off on a good start with a different brand than other sports teams in town. More youthful, more vibrant, just a hipper version of what a sports team could be.
Ideas just kept evolving, and that was all part of the fun of it. I think the fact that we were all so young, we all had such a go-for-it attitude.
Finding the way to build a team, looking for Isaiah's leadership.
That's where Isaiah said, trust me. The last 2 months, he had zoned in. I'm going to build the team around Damon.
You can tell me about this night.
Draft night. June 28th, 1995. And the draft just happens to be in Toronto.
On the shores of Lake Ontario, beautiful Toronto, Ontario, Canada, site of the 1995 NBA Draft. They're saying, we want Ed, we want Ed, we want Ed O'Bannon. I don't know if that's going to be the situation with the Toronto Raptors.
The player they wanted us to pick, we knew that he had an injury problem, and we knew that would be a risky pick.
The first time I ever heard the expression, he's got a bad wheel, and I said, what's that? He goes, his leg, his knee. Now, Isaiah really wanted Kevin Garnett, but then word started getting out of that. He wasn't around by then.
Good evening, and welcome to the 1995 NBA Draft. Held for the first time in Canada, home of the NBA's two newest teams, the Vancouver Grizzlies and the Toronto Raptors.
At that point, I had an idea that Toronto was going to draft me, but I did not know for sure. Isaiah obviously loved Kevin Garnett. Everybody, who didn't love Kevin Garnett, right? How it was put to me by my agent, if Kevin Garnett was gone before the 5th pick, I was going to Minnesota at 5. If Kevin Garnett slipped to 7, or Toronto moved up to get Kevin, then, you know, obviously they weren't going to draft me. So I had an idea that I was going to go somewhere between 5 and 7. Get to the draft, Joe goes 1. You know, McDyess goes 2, Stack goes 3, Rasheed goes 4. So everything's kind of going according to plan. Now it's almost like if there's no glitches in the game, I know where I'm going. KG goes 5. I know I'm not going to Vancouver because they didn't even bring me in for a workout. Big Country goes there, Toronto's up, there's a lot of anticipation, there's a lot of different things going on. When you're getting drafted, everybody gets in position. So essentially the cameras were making their way to my table. So I'm just sitting there and I'm just soaking it all up, and I hear my name called.
With the 7th pick in the 1995 NBA Draft, their first draft and their first pick, the Toronto Raptors select Damon Stoudamire from the University of Arizona.
And I lean back in my chair and I do this. When I do that, right, I just think about all the hard work and all the dedication that it took to get to that point. Then I think about my mother, and then I think about my grandmother who passed away in 1990, and I wish she had been there. It was kind of a quick reflection, boom, I get back, I walk out there, I hear some boos, you hear some cheers. You can't really tell, to be honest with you. Going through that moment, then going through the media, I really realized we were all going to go through a process together. Not only was I there to be a good basketball player, but I was there to be an ambassador for basketball in Canada, and especially for the city of Toronto. I knew they took a chance on me, you know, under 6-foot guard. I really appreciated the organization because at that time, we were all learning together. They did everything they could to make life easier for me, and I did the best I could to play the best basketball I can, not only for the organization, but for the city.
There's some mixed response, some boos, some cheers. Take some time. Go change those boos to cheers, will you?
Well, I'm definitely going to try to do that. You know, every fans have their expectations, but you know, the organization had their expectation and standards, and they felt that I was the person that could help this program, or excuse me, this organization out the most right now.
Okay, good luck.
All right, thank you.
Every training camp I've been at, it's like usually we're the city we play in, but it's been cool.
It's kind of our first opportunity to build that team camaraderie, be able to kind of get out there on the court with each other. As it always is, high intensity, a lot of energy out there, everybody trying to figure out ways to be impactful on the floor.
Come on! Give me that, man!
It's been amazing to be here, be around a lot of those guys, and just, you know, being able to, for me personally, start to build that chemistry with them on the court.
We had really set the tone, you know, starting from kind of summer league of, you know, how we're going to play and the style we're going to play. So right when we got to training camp, we kind of just attacked that and hit it down full force.
I think this has been a really good training camp for us. When you have such a young team, you can do a lot of teaching, a lot of coaching, and a lot of sort of like building systems. What's been most impressive is that our players have really stuck to the basics, stuck to the fundamentals of what Coach Darko's trying to implement with them, both offensively and defensively, but even more importantly in terms of culture.
What up?
I remember when I was young, and the Raptors were just starting, the representation of seeing somebody doing it made it more real for me. And I think it's the same thing for the youth that were at that clinic, that seeing NBA players made it more real for them, that the NBA is attainable, it's possible, but also it's real.
For all my teammates, it's awesome to get to come to Montreal, get to come to where you guys stay and live and get to play your game and just bring our love and passion for basketball to you. We're just really excited to be here, and we hope you guys are excited to have us.
We have touch points with different cities, different communities, different areas across the country. If we're in Vancouver or if we're in PEI.
1, 2, 3, Raptors!
There's something unique about the Raptor brand, and I think for that experience in Montreal, but anywhere we go, a connection point with our fans, but it's more just people to people. It's understanding the sort of diversity and the wonderfulness of Canadians and allowing our players to see it, but also allowing the great community of Canada to see our players as well.
Training camp was in Hamilton. During that time, there was a lockout. The lockout was over maybe 2 days before training camp was officially to start. I didn't get to Toronto until the day before training camp. I had a press conference, I signed my contract, and then immediately got on the bus. I remember, Hamilton, it's about an hour away. And so I'm leaving this big city. And then we get to Hamilton, I'm like, man, it's small. And you know what, I don't know nothing. So at the end of the day, I'm an NBA player. That's all I really cared about at that time. We had 2 days. We practiced from 9 to 12, break, came back 5 to 8 for 2 weeks. That's what we did. I was tired, I was drained. I was like, if this is the NBA, I'm not gonna make it. Our first preseason game, we play in Halifax. Your practices get redundant, it's kind of, you're doing the same thing every day. You're playing against the same players, you dang near fighting each other, you're tired, you're tired of each other. So playing against some new blood was gonna be good, and so I figured I'd get a little bit extra juice. But man, once I ran out that tunnel for that game, it was like a switch went on. Boop!
Just about ready to go. It's underway. Tap is controlled by the Raptors. Robertson gives to Stoudamire. And once again, Damon Stoudamire, good hands, alertly picks it up, takes it up, lays it in. Back to Stoudamire. Fakes, drives, shoots, hits. Stoudamire stops and pops over Richard Dumas for 2.
First preseason game, I remember like it was yesterday. I think I got about 28 and 10. I had some bumps in the road, but for the most part, it was like, figuring it out. Way
downtown, Stoudamire, he hits!
Played with really good veterans. I wouldn't have had the year I did if it wasn't for guys like John Sally, if it wasn't for guys like Willie Anderson, Alvin Robinson, Oliver Miller, Tony Massenberg.
It was a funny team, man. We had characters. It was a real eclectic mix of personalities. We spent a lot of time laughing at one another.
Stoudamire spins, fakes, shoots, swish.
To be playing in front of people and kind of introducing them to NBA basketball, you wanted to always go out and give a great effort. And you wanted to represent the league in a way that would leave great memories for these people if they never get to an NBA game again.
Robertson will go strong.
We were going all over the place to play games, but the craziest thing was playing in the Skydome. People don't understand. That was different.
These. You want to check that out?
Man, you know what? I was at my mother's house and she had this. She had this too. So a lot here to unpack. I thought this was a dope pick. I was like, man, they got me leaning, but then they got the tower leaning. That's what I thought was nice about it. I was like, man, how did for them to do that, yeah, it's nice. 30 years. I got butterflies every time I play, little anxiety. But this was something different. I had a lot of family in town, obviously, so they came to see my first professional game. I remember the day like it was yesterday. It was a Friday, and just you know, it was like draft night. The day was moving so slow. There it is. You know, it's crazy. You to come here. To come here and pass by it now. All these years later, and look up. Obviously, they changed the name, but it's still the same spot. For me, it's always going to be the same spot. It was a lot of great things that went on in that building that first year. For me, this is, regardless of what goes on in this city, no matter how much these new buildings go up and things of that nature, like for me, this is what I'll always remember. My first arena, my first NBA arena.
Welcome live to Toronto, Ontario. The Skydome, the site tonight of what will be many, many more basketball nights in Canada.
A lot of nerves. It was a lot of nervous energy. So many people at that game, boy. It was history in the making.
The very first game was amazing. The thing I remember, I'll never forget, the game was played, I think, maybe a week after one of the Quebec referendums, and it just passed 51-49. Very, very tenuous point in history for Canada.
It was a very close vote. I mean, less than 1% difference between Quebec voting to separate from Canada. And what I remember is the Bare Naked Ladies were singing the national anthem.
And in the middle stanza, they broke into French, and the fans cheered.
The unity that we expressed by including the French and the reaction that arena in Toronto, not in Montreal or Quebec City, the positive reaction that garnered was a very important kind of inclusivity.
It shows the power that sport can do to bring people together, bring communities together, and to celebrate the community and the nation.
The opening tip, watching Eddie Pinckney jump center against now the late Yinka Dare, I'm like, holy sh**, like NBA basketball's in Toronto.
The opening tip, we're underway and the Raptors win it. John Tabak brings it back to Damon Stoudamire, who will set up his offense.
First game, Toronto as a pro, you playing against Kenny Anderson, who I thought was one of the best guards in the NBA. But once the ball went up, it was just like second nature.
Inside for Tabak. Alvin Robertson for three. There is the first ever basket scored by a Toronto Raptors.
John Tabak, NBA champ, setting up Alvin Robertson for that first bucket. I remember it was just old school inside-outside basketball and Mighty Mouse. I mean, it was just perfect timing to get me sucked in as a kid.
Steal by Stoudamire.
I remember it just being a really exciting time because, like, you're a basketball fan in the 90s. Like, I'm watching other teams. I'm watching Michael Jordan and the Bulls. I'm watching the Knicks. I'm watching the Pacers. And suddenly, as an NBA fan, you have a team that you can root for in your hometown, and that couldn't have been more exciting for someone my age at the time.
We had to find a place to play while we were waiting to build our own arena, and Skydome was there. It served its purpose, obviously far from perfect. We were able to sell a hell of a lot of number of tickets. Some records were set there, and it was great to see when the Skydome was completely full.
I think I probably saw every game of the Skydome. It was a pit, but I think I saw every game in there. It was like really something odd.
It just stood out because it was so spacious, and it didn't feel like that place where you could definitely have a home court advantage.
It was so cold in the Skydome. We used to wear hoodies in practice, but it was a part of it. You know what I mean? The games was freezing. The only thing, the backdrops and the trajectories or the rim, at times it threw you off. But for the most part, listen, I was a rookie. It didn't even matter. So a lot of things that probably as I became older and knew, it didn't even bother me none because I was just more so excited about being an NBA player. It was like the newness of everything.
Robertson, Stoudamire.
effort by the Toronto Raptors, Damon Stoudamire.
Opening night looked a lot different 30 years ago. Purple pinstripes popping at the Skydome, eventually moving from right field to right down the road.
Bring it in. Come on, baby, first game. Let's go out there, play hard, do everything we've been doing in practice.
Scotty Barnes, official face of the franchise, ready to lead in a year where we celebrate being Northside since '95.
Scotty sends it ahead to Damon Stoudamire. That guy can dart.
There was a freshness to everything that we were doing.
Good defensive effort here. Here's Stoudamire.
We knew that the journey was going to be a little rough.
Garland off the bounce. Brady Dick swats it away.
But we vowed to do our best and have fun so we can remember those moments.
Shot clock down to 4. Scotty. Oh, I love it. Stoudamire hits the 3. Here's a young man that has no fear. He's just getting stronger as the season goes on.
There's not one moment I don't remember, good or bad, my first year.
Drive, does the boogaloo, in he goes, gets it up quickly, that's what you want, a three-pointer.
I think he's a little underappreciated. I mean, he was aptly nicknamed Mighty Mouse, and he brought a lot to the table, brought a lot to the court. His passion, his excitement, his skill level, it was all wonderful to see, and I think really helped launch the franchise.
Fans, he was the first player to ever be drafted by the Toronto Raptors. Would you please give it up for Mighty Mouse? It's Damon Stoudamire!
I just personally want to thank you, because without you guys, there would have been no me. This is where my journey started, and I'm just appreciative of everything the city of Toronto did for me.
Basketball, more than any other sport, is about individuals. It's about superstars, and he was the best player on the team by far. This is building up the game's visibility within the city and the country, so he meant everything.
He was the heart and soul. Toronto loves the workman-like player, the I'm going to give it to you every night player.
Stoudamire then behind the back spins, putting on a show. Oh, Damon Stoudamire, are you kidding me?
If Damon was a 7-foot guy, I don't think the team would have resonated with people as quickly as it did. Everyone saw him out there putting it on the floor, and I think he gave us an identity.
Quick hands, 2 on the shot clock.
When I think back, the things I did there, and as the time goes on, you know, nobody can ever take that from me. Winning Rookie of the Year, being the face of a new team, franchise, and the face of a country. I would never take that time for granted, and when I'm long gone, you know, in the record book, it's still gonna say first draft pick ever, you know, Damon Stoudamire.
Damn, I'm getting a history lesson today.
Me too, low key.
Wow.
The fan love, the fan support, like from day one has been crazy.
Being a part of that now is unbelievable now, because it's like it's that and even more.
Everybody in the organization, we grew up together. We had good times together, we made mistakes together. And I think that was the beauty of it back then. You're gonna always have a part of that with you, being that first ever team, you know, being on that first ever team.
What do you think it would have been like to play with Vince?
Man, it would have been amazing.
It's the rookie's debut. Oh, this team's in trouble. Ask Gemini.
Help me build this tent.
Pixel in the clutch.
How do I start a charcoal grill?
Gemini with the assist.
Woo!
Google Pixel 9. Even better on Bell.